so that's chronic inflammation. It runs under the radar before anything shows up on blood markers or symptomology, or symptoms are starting to incubate and start to show, but they might not be correlated with this inflammation. You're getting medicines thrown at you, but not getting at root cause. That's a very big problem right now.
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above.
Hi everybody, and welcome to your second 50. Chronic inflammation. All right, it's gone viral right now in terms of a topic related to health and vitality, especially in people over 50. But when I'm working one-on-one with clients, I find that a lot of times when I ask them, what is chronic inflammation? What do you know about it? They look at me like I'm speaking Chinese, because even though we're tossing this around a lot, there's not a lot of understanding about it. And without understanding it, you'll miss what you can do to actually help it. And that's what this video is all about. Welcome everybody. I'm Judy Terrell, and I'm a nationally board certified health coach with 43 plus years of experience in the health and vitality field. I am a certified holistic nutritionist. I am a certified personal trainer. I have a master's degree in psychology. I'm studying to get a doctorate and a PhD in lifestyle as medicine. I have 43 odd years of experience. I'm a clinician. I'm designing programs and behavioral change programming for clients every single day, day after day. I'm passionate about it, and I want to help you. Chronic inflammation, okay? Let's talk about it. What is it? Why is it bad? And what can we do to reverse it before it becomes a chronic illness, okay? Chronic inflammation is the precursor to every chronic illness that is killing us right now. Heart disease, stroke and high blood pressure, diabetes and metabolic disorders, cancers, pulmonary disorders, COPD, and also brain, cognitive decline, dementia, and Alzheimer's, okay? So chronic inflammation, and it will go under the wire. It can be incubating for years, if not decades, and doing damage silently under the surface. There are signs on the outside I'm going to talk to you about, but then by the time they manifest, and by the time you get something on a blood panel or systemic a disease or something that's going to show up on an image or other diagnostic device from our healthcare system, before that, you could have done something to reverse it, okay? And that's what my goal is in this video, to help you to, detect the silent killer before it kills, right? All right, so that said, chronic inflammation. Well, let's back out of that for a second. Inflammation. Inflammation is good. Inflammation is what our body does when we have to heal, repair, or fight something. So if I get cut, right, what's going to happen is it's going to get red and angry because environmental things in the air are now, getting into the inner sanctum of where that cut was. But then our immune system, produces inflammation, and it brings water out around the cells in that area where the cut is, and it brings with it all our frontline defenses, cytokines, lymphocytes, killer T cells, to name a few. And they do the job of, combating the invaders and then helping the area to heal. And then the inflammation goes down and everything's back to normal, all right? That's a localized inflammation. Now, if you had COVID-19 or you get the flu or some other viral or bacterial pathogen gets inside the inner sanctum of our body, similarly, but systemically now, not just in one area, water is going to be drawn to your entire body, and in that water are all our frontline immune defense, cells and enzymes and molecules, which are now going to, identify where that viral invader is. It's going to swarm it with a lot of water, around the cells of which it's invaded, and then it's going to do the immune system does its job to kill and then eradicate whatever got inside, and then you're well again. All right? So inflammation is a good thing. We need it. We've evolved, we have survived as a species because that mechanism came to be, right? Now, chronic inflammation is a different thing. Chronic inflammation is kind of like a fire inside your body that is like embers burning, and it's not a raging wildfire, although it can become so, but little embers burning and ongoingly, and it's not episodic where then your immune cells take care of it and then do away with it, because what's causing the inflammation is continuously being brought into the body. So the immune system now keeps having to bring water, swelling up tissue, right? Skin and cells and joints and everywhere in your body, the brain, all this. Inflammation, which is water outside your cells, because most of the water in our body, which is mostly water, our bodies are mostly water, should be inside the cells, like 60%. But when more water, the ratio of water inside the cells and outside the cells starts to get bigger, that means there's more water outside your cells. That, my friends, is how you can tell if you are having chronic inflammation. Swelling, constant swelling, jewelry or rings that can't get off, but not like because you had a salty meal, chronically, like their fingers are swollen. Red inflamed skin is a visual outside way that you can tell if you've got chronic inflammation. Visceral fat and belly fat, like an accumulation of fat around the midsection here, is a outside indicator that there's probably chronic inflammation going on inside the body. Other indicators of chronic inflammation is a constant and chronic fatigue, no matter how much sleep you get. Just a feeling of malaise and tiredness and definitely not feeling right. Skin eruptions, I already said red skin, but eczema, psoriasis, lupus, autoimmune reactions in the skin can be a sign and the result of chronic inflammation. Also, digestive disorders like irritable bowel syndrome, idiopathic, distress in the digestive system that imaging hasn't found anything structurally wrong. So digestive issues is a sign, an outward sign that you can observe that is probably saying that you've got chronic inflammation going on. All right. So these are ways that you can, and they get written off. Like these are ways you can tell, but they get written off to other things. All right. Chronic inflammation is usually underlying these and signs that for you to say, okay, I need to do something about this. My body is struggling, and although it hasn't manifested in anything, threatening, it's on its way to, okay? And we can interrupt. We can change the direction of that and navigate into a different direction. All right. So now, what can we do to lower chronic inflammation in our bodies if we have it? Some of these signs and symptoms, right? When you have tried all the programs and done all the right things, and yet you still can't lose the weight that you're trying to lose, and you're a male or female over 50, now is the time for you to look into my program, Your Second 50.life. It includes online video support. You can download video and PDFs for an eating plan and exercise plan appropriate for the over 50. It includes group support on a monthly basis, and perhaps even more importantly, it includes weekly individualized coaching specific to you. Having the generalized plan is a good thing. I have helped literally thousands of people to lose weight over the 43 years I've been in practice, and I'd like to help you too. So, one of the first things that we need to do is to eat an anti-inflammatory diet, because a lot of times chronic inflammation is coming in through our mouth, okay? We're eating ultra-processed foods. We're eating foods with a lot of chemical additives, like, the forever plastics that are in our food now, or the food is wrapped in that, or we're cooking it in it. Emulsifiers, texturizers and tenderizers, flavor enhancers. All these are subcategories of ultra-processed foods. So an anti-inflammatory eating plan or diet, generally the rule of thumb is if you can get it, if you're going to eat it and ingest it in the form of which you could get it out in nature, then that's okay to eat. If it is some other form that you, like the way I tell people is like, you could pull a potato out of the ground and eat it, but where is the soy protein isolate stream if you were stranded in an island and you had to fend for yourself, right? That's an ultra processed food, and it's bringing in things into your body that your body is going to think is a pathogen and is going to create chronic inflammation to try and, combat any damage being done on a cellular level. So eating an anti-inflammatory diet is like one of the most potent ways to avoid chronic inflammation, because so many of us now, because of the food manufacturing business of 21st century world, but definitely America, we are ingesting the enemy. And that's causing chronic inflammation, which then leads to our chronic illnesses and premature death. All right, so eating an anti-inflammatory diet. Number 2, prioritizing sleep. Not getting enough sleep in terms of hours of sleep, not getting enough quality of sleep in terms of REM and deep sleep and the stages of sleep. Getting enough sleep but going off the natural circadian rhythm so far, going to bed really, really late at night, going and waking up later in the day, taking too many naps in the middle of the day, that is then undermining getting good quality sleep at night. There's a number of ways that, just being stressed, is robbing us of good sleep. But being sleep deprived and not getting good quality sleep, and that's when our bodies are rejuvenating, repairing, and refurbishing, and cleaning up the mess of everyday living. If we're not getting enough of that time, then you can see where it's like, then you're kind of going through each day, not having had time to clean up from overnight the night before, and now the next day adds more corruption and messiness, and then the day after that to the internal sanctum of your body, and now that chronic embers starts to become more flame and chronic inflammation in your body, to use my metaphor from before. So getting good sleep, making sure you're sleeping consistent, making sure you're going, trying to toggle your sleep as close to like daylight hours, in darkness. That's impossible for most of us, myself included, but you don't have to go to bed at 1 a.m. You can try to get to bed between 10 and 11 at night, even though it got dark at like 6, right? That's one of the ways that you can, better regulate your sleep and help to control for incubating chronic inflammation. Being active, okay? Sedentary life, extended periods of sitting. Even people who are going to the gym and working out, let's say first thing in the morning, but then are sitting for like the next 12, 14, 16 hours of their day, that is a recipe for inflammation, because moving, our bodies were made to move. That helps to circulate the blood, which is now taking metabolic waste. The cells and the lymph fluid are, taking the metabolic waste out of the cells, putting it into the blood, and then, disseminating out of our body through our breath, through our skin, through our feces and our urine. And if you're sitting and not moving a lot, then it's almost like you're creating a little mini toxic dump because of a lack of circulation. It would be like the garbage, carriers going on strike in our communities, and the garbage is like just building up and building up without a way to transport it out, right? Moving our bodies is an anti-inflammatory practice. It has secondary benefits, tertiary benefits like weight management and function capacity to keep us mobile as we age. But I'm talking about chronic inflammation right now, and that movement, making sure that you're not having extended periods of sitting, getting up, moving around, even if you're working out formally, making sure you're breaking up that sitting and just getting up. You don't have to do anything crazy, but like this whole concept of exercise snacks that's in vogue right now. Stand up and sit down 20 times in your chair at the top of every hour. That's one way that is being touted as a good way to, help with weight management and muscle building. But for us in this video, that's a great way to keep blood flowing and to combat building chronic inflammation. All right, and then another thing that we can do on a day-to-day basis is better managing our stress, because our body thinks is going to fight ultra processed foods and toxins coming in through our mouth. But when we are under stress, we literally are creating chemical toxicity from the inside. High cortisol, high epinephrine and adrenaline at too high levels. Toxic, like negative thinking, actually gets translated into chemicals that then our body sees as viral, like COVID-19, and then it starts to, think it has to fight that, and then it will inflame and carry that water into the cell or around the cells, bringing the immune system places, and it's coming. It's like the enemy is within. It's how we're thinking. It's that high, heart rate and that, jacked up cortisol and adrenaline. So we need stress management tools, the deep breathing, taking time to do a calming meditation or a visualization in the middle of your day, going out for a walk. Exercise is a phenomenal stress management technique that's separate from weight management, right? And that can help, minimize chronic inflammation. Earthing and forest bathing, getting out in nature on a daily basis, on a regular basis, are all easily, manageable behaviors that we can do to minimize chronic inflammation. And then finally, environmental toxins. So if you're working in a field where the warehouse that you're working in has asbestos, or I know dentists that have worked for decades of their life inhaling before they started wearing masks the materials of the things that are made to fix our teeth that we came to learn were toxic. Mercury fillings, for one. If you live in areas where there's a lot of smog, or now with a lot of forest fires, the ash coming into us through our nasal passages and in our lungs, then it gets into the inner sanctum of our body, and our immune system says, whoa, what's that? If you're just there for a day and you're taking this stuff in at episodic, intervals, all well and good. That's what our immune system is, evolved to kind of handle. It's when you're living in these, situations, and this is becoming a chronic and consistent overload. That's when chronic inflammation becomes chronic, and then leads to our chronic illnesses, right? So, to chronic inflammation, bad. What can we do to minimize that in our bodies? Eat an anti-inflammatory diet that is whole food, oriented. Make sure that we're moving, not just like at one part of the day and then sitting for much of the other, but consistently building in movement into our everyday life. Prioritizing sleep, making sure that we're kind of toggling our sleep schedule with the, the circadian rhythm of the daylight and the darkness as closely as possible. Stress management, building in, earthing, forest bathing, deep exhale breathing, visualizations that calm us down, listening to music that makes us feel good in our heart, easily, administratable practices that we can build into our everyday lives. And then finally, being conscious of your environment, trying to minimize the forever plastics that you're interfacing with on a day-to-day basis with your food and your breathing and your cosmetics and creams and things that we're putting on our bodies, the packaging of things, trying to go for more paper versus plastic, and then your environment itself, trying to be conscious of how you might be inhaling or touching, using non-scented fabric cleaners in your wash. The scents are all known to be toxic and inflammatory to our body. These are some of the things that you can be looking at, and there's a lot more, but that's a different video. So those things that I just discussed are all methods that we all can do to try to help to manage this chronic inflammation. And environmental, I'm going to add in like smoking, illicit drugs. These are other things that are like, are they ingestibles? Are they chronic environmental things? Are kind of like a blurred boundary there. But alcohol, like paying attention to things that are corruptive, to our body, and it's going to, put lighter fluid on flames that might be embers that are, molting underneath the surface, right? We don't want to add lighter fluid to them. So, everyone has their own opinion and their own philosophy about taking in things like alcohol. I'm not trying to, ethnically or ethically direct you. I'm just bringing your attention to these are items that are inflammatory to our body, and so titrating them and being conscious of how much you're bringing into your inner sanctum, right? Your sacred inner vessel. All right, buddy, so that's chronic inflammation. It runs under the radar before anything shows up on blood markers or symptomology, or symptoms are starting to incubate and start to show, but they might not be correlated with this inflammation. You're getting medicines thrown at you, but not getting at root cause. That's a very big problem right now. So this video was about giving you the tools for getting at the root cause. And I hope that you've learned some things from this. And if you have, my agenda is to help as many people as I can to have health and vitality through their second 50 of their life. And so if that is you, then I invite you to take a look at yoursecond50.life, which is my community of individuals that are like-minded to what I just said and want to build into their lives like information on a regular basis, a community. I have monthly group Zoom meetings where I'm teaching more information like this. And it's related to weight management and fitness, but those are secondary gains to our day-to-day habits and behaviors that are really more about health and vitality and weight management and fitness. So check that out, everybody, and I hope I see you there. And if not, then I'll see you in another video, hopefully really soon.
And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.